Hello, I'm Dan from Fishbulb Films, and today is a very exciting / very scary day because we're going to be modifying our C200 from its standard EF mount to a PL mount using Wooden Camera's C200 and PL mount kit. The reason being is in a couple of days our short film Dead Air is going into production, and the lovely folks at Cook Optics have lent us a whole set of their S4 mini lenses that we'll be shooting on. We've previously used them before on The Nail That Sticks Out, which you may have seen on our website. If you've not, make sure you check it out. And we just love the look from these lenses. Usually we use these Samyangs, and you can see the difference between them is really quite crazy. So I'm going to get all the kit out and run you through exactly how to do it. Okay, so let's get started. The Wooden Camera PL mount kit for the C200 comes with everything that you need to do it yourself. Even though that is a little bit scary, it should be absolutely fine. It also comes with a helpful video on how to do it as well. So just to run you through the parts, we've got the PL mount itself with a cap, and that comes preloaded with a shim. Well, it's meant to, actually ours didn't, but apparently it's the blue one that they recommend. It does come with other shims as well, should that not work once you get it all together, so that you've got a few options. You've got this very nice little black and orange screwdriver, some bent nose pliers, and a selection of little screws and a Allen key as well. So there's sort of 5 steps to this as we go along it. First of all is to take this front plate off the C200. So to do that, you take your screwdriver and you take out these 6 screws all the way around the front of the camera. Handy little tip, obviously try and keep all your screws in one place. I'm using a back cap, just a nice little thing that you might have lying about that you can use to keep your screws all together in one place. Okay, so the front should just now lift off, revealing the front of the camera. So the next part is to remove the actual EF mount from the camera. So for this, you're going to need to take the body cap off the camera. Obviously not advisable to be waving screwdrivers around the sensor most of the time, but for this one we will do a little bit as well. Now, what we're going to be doing is taking out these screws round the EF mount with the same screwdriver, so I'll just do that now. At this point, I'd just like to stop and say that we had a little bit of trouble taking out the other screws on the EF mount. Basically what happened was the screws are actually locked in with some like blue Loctite, something like that, and we ended up just by a couple of wrong turns with the screwdriver rounding off the heads, so we had to get some specialist tools in to remove the heads. Top tip for if you're going to be doing this, you can actually just heat the heads up a little bit and it will just release them from the Loctite, and it will just make it a little bit easier to get them out, and you won't have to go through the whole process of what we did to get this mount off. So anyway, it's off now, everything's fine. So I'll show you how it came off, just like that. It does actually have its own metal shim as well, so just make sure that you don't misplace that. And it also came with a tiny little spring and a pin as well, which is part of the lens release mechanism. Really, really small and easy to lose. So again, just make sure that you're putting it with the rest of your screws so that you can reassemble it if you need to later on. Okay, so the next step is to remove this little ribbon cable underneath. So For this you're going to need the pliers, and just very carefully, and it's from the bottom, so just underneath and just give it a very, very light tug, and there we go, that has been released now. And then we're going back to our screwdriver, and this is to release the pogo pins, which make up obviously all of the electronics from the EF mount. So it's just these two screws here, the bottom ones. So take those out, being very careful not to round off any of the heads. Now I've got a back cap here as well. I'm going to put these screws, because they're slightly different, but they're also black, just into here as well, just to differentiate them when it comes to putting the EF mount back together at a later date. And with that, this EF pogo pins, the pogo pins should just pull out like so. And again, just make sure that that gets put away somewhere, so that if you do need to put the EF mount back on, which we're planning on doing, you've got all the parts that you need to make it work. So I'll just put it with those screws there. So that is the EF mount completely taken off the camera. As you can see, we've just got a raw sensor, no mount, and a useless camera at the moment. So the next step is to put the whole faceplate back onto the camera. So I'm just going to tip it onto its back. When you're putting this mount on, just be mindful that behind where these buttons are on the front of the camera, there's just some little weather seals. Just make sure that they've not fallen out and that they're still in position before you put it back onto the camera. And then using the same screws as we used to take the faceplate off, I'm just going to screw it back on. Okay, so that's the final screw, and everything's looking a little less scary now that the camera is not exposing any of its electronics, so I'm feeling a little bit happier. So the last part of this is to now get the PL mount on. So to do that, I'm going to remove the cap, and ensuring that the shim is going between the body of the camera and the front of the mount, just places it in like so. Just going to tip it on its back again, just to let gravity help me. And then using the provided Allen key and tiny little screws, we're going to connect it to the camera. So there's 6 screws required to put this in. Wooden Camera have advised that you put the top 4 in first and finish with the bottom 2. I assume that's just to ensure that it's all completely square all the way around before you sort of completely lock it in. That's loud. I'm just doing these sort of tight enough to hold the mount on at the moment, but not really tightening them up. And then once all of the screws are in situ, I'll go around and I'll just tighten them all up to make sure that they're not going anywhere. Okay, so I'm just moving on to the final 2 screws, which are at the bottom of the mount. Put those ones in. All the time, of course, ensuring that the Allen key doesn't go anywhere near the sensor, which which is still a little bit of a scary thing. Now I'm just going to go around and just ensure all of them are nice and tight. It's got a bit of give in it. I think the shim, it has sort of pre-punched holes in it. I don't think it'd actually come completely out, so I think there's probably just a little bit of shim stuck in that hole. So there we go. We now have a fully functioning PL mount on our C200. Obviously wooden camera provided with a cap, which is nice and handy. And there we go. We have our C200 with PL mount and our EF mount in bits over here. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel for loads more practical filmmaking tips and tutorials. And be sure to check out our film Dead Air, which will be released sometime in 2020, to see what we managed to achieve with the cook look.